I never thought that something as small and innocent-looking as a mole on my leg would change the course of my entire life. To most people, it would have seemed trivial, barely worth a second thought. The kind of thing you glance at once in the mirror and then forget about while rushing to work, picking up groceries, or scrolling through your phone late at night. But for me, that mole became the ticking time bomb I didn't know I was carrying, the silent reminder that beauty, vanity, and trust in the wrong hands can cost you everything. I grew up like many American women do, surrounded by magazines, TV commercials, endless Instagram feeds full of flawless bodies and filtered faces. It's easy to say just ignore it or real beauty is on the inside, but when you live in a culture that sells perfection at every turn, you start to believe that anything less is unacceptable. And for me, that belief became a quiet obsession. I wasn't a model, I wasn't an actress, I wasn't even someone who relied on looks for a career. I was an ordinary woman with an ordinary job, living in an ordinary city. But like so many women, I wanted to feel beautiful. That desire is what led me into the bright, polished office of a cosmetic clinic one sunny afternoon. It wasn't a hospital, not a sterile medical facility with white coats and beeping machines. No, this was the kind of place that marketed itself as luxury self-care, with lavender diffusers puffing gentle clouds into the air, soft spa music trickling from hidden speakers, and cheerful posters of smiling women taped on every wall. The kind of posters that promise transformation, new you, new confidence, the kind of place you'd trust because it feels friendly, not frightening. I had noticed the mole on my leg years earlier. It wasn't very big, but lately I thought it looked darker, maybe a little irregular. I didn't know the difference between normal and abnormal when it came to skin. I only knew what beauty blogs told me: moles can be ugly, and if you don't like them, just get them removed. Easy, fast, painless. And so, I made an appointment. I didn't even consider seeing a dermatologist first. Why would I? To me, this wasn't a medical problem. It was cosmetic, and they advertised solutions. When I walked in, the receptionist complimented my dress. I remember that. Such a small, insignificant moment. But looking back now, it feels haunting. I felt welcome, I felt cared for, I felt like I was in the right place. There was no reason to doubt the professionalism of the people who would be working on me. After all, the clinic had hundreds of glowing reviews online, social media influencers, tagging the location, smiling selfies of clients holding little after my treatment, signs. If so many women trusted them, why wouldn't I? I met with a woman who introduced herself as a cosmetic specialist, not a doctor, though at the time I didn't even notice she never used that word. She looked at my leg for less than 30 seconds, before announcing that the mole could easily be removed. "Quick procedure," she said. "You'll be back to your normal life in no time." Those words replay in my mind now, dripping with irony. No one asked me if I had family history of skin cancer. No one suggested a biopsy before removing it. No one used the words melanoma, oncology, or even risk. I trusted her, because she had the uniform, the clinic, the calm confidence of someone who looked like she knew what she was doing. When you're sitting in a treatment chair, and someone in scrubs stands over you with tools, your brain just assumes they're the authority. They know more than you do. They must. The removal itself was quick. A numbing cream, a tiny scalpel, a sterile bandage. The whole thing took maybe 15 minutes. I walked out of that office lighter, relieved, even proud. Proud that I had taken control, that I had improved something about myself, that I had done the thing women are constantly encouraged to do: fix what isn't perfect. I didn't know that by trusting them, I'd stepped straight into a nightmare. The first signs that something was wrong came almost immediately. The wound wasn't healing right. I felt exhausted, far beyond what a minor procedure should cause. I brushed it off. Work stress, maybe hormones, maybe I was just overthinking. But the exhaustion grew, bone deep, like my body was shutting down piece by piece. I started losing weight without trying, and my skin developed a sickly pallor. When I returned to the clinic, they assured me it was nothing, just normal healing. They told me to be patient, to trust the process. And I did. But deep inside, a dread was forming. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. It wasn't until I finally went to see an actual doctor that the truth came crashing down on me like a tidal wave. Tests, scans, blood work, biopsies, words I had never wanted to learn suddenly became my entire vocabulary. The verdict was devastating: stage 4 melanoma. Cancer, aggressive, already spreading. In that moment, my life split into a before and after. Before, the naive woman who believed beauty was harmless, that clinics were safe, that professionals always knew best. After, the woman sitting in a cold hospital room, staring at a doctor's lips as they formed words like terminal, limited treatment options, and uncertain prognosis. The cruelest part? The removal at the cosmetic clinic hadn't caused the cancer. It had already been there, silently growing beneath my skin. But the so-called specialists hadn't recognized the signs. They hadn't cared enough to ask the right questions. They hadn't taken the time to protect me from myself. Their job wasn't to heal, but to sell. And in selling me a procedure, they sold me false comfort while the disease spread unchecked. I have replayed those decisions in my mind 1,000 times. Why didn't I research more? Why didn't I ask harder questions? Why did I believe that a spa-like salon was equipped to handle something that could cost me my life? The answer is painfully simple: because we are taught to trust. We are taught to believe that people in positions of authority, no matter how flimsy their credentials, are there to help us. We are taught that beauty is worth chasing, worth paying for, worth a little pain. But what no one tells you is that chasing beauty in the wrong place, from the wrong hands, can kill you. That's why I'm telling my story now. Not because I enjoy reliving the trauma, not because I want pity, but because I want women, especially women like me, who think they're too busy, too ordinary, too healthy to worry, to understand the danger. A mole isn't just a mole. A quick procedure isn't always quick. A friendly clinic with pretty walls isn't always safe. The people in that cosmetic clinic took something from me that I can never get back. They took away my chance to catch this disease early. They took away my trust in my own instincts. They took away the illusion that beauty is harmless. And now, every time I wake up feeling weak, every time I look in the mirror and see the pale, gaunt version of myself staring back, I remember that one decision, walking into that clinic. This is only the beginning of my story, because what came after, the treatments, the battles, the betrayals, the realizations, was even more harrowing. But before I take you deeper into that darkness, I need you to understand how it all began. With a simple choice, with a desire to feel beautiful, with a single step into the wrong door. That's how my nightmare started, and that's why I will never stop warning others. Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't confuse comfort with competence. Don't confuse beauty with health. Don't confuse a smile behind a desk with the qualifications of a doctor, because the price of that confusion could be your life. When I first heard the words, stage 4 melanoma, my mind shut down. I sat in that hospital chair, staring at the doctor, my body present but my soul somewhere else, floating above the sterile room where everything smelled faintly of disinfectant and despair. The words didn't feel real. They were the kind of words you hear in movies, the kind of tragedy that happens to someone else, not me, not in my 30s, not when I had plans, not when my whole life was still supposed to be ahead of me. But denial is fragile. It cracked the moment I walked out of that hospital and felt the weight of the diagnosis pressing down like an iron shackle. Suddenly, every step was heavier. Every glance in the mirror felt foreign. Every sound of laughter on the street outside cut through me like a cruel reminder. The world was moving forward, but I was already marked by death. I tried to go back to the cosmetic clinic, not for another procedure, but for answers. I wanted to look into their eyes and ask how they could have missed it, how they could have been so careless, so blind. I wanted them to admit they weren't qualified, to admit they had failed me. Instead, I was met with the same lavender-scented air, the same spa music, the same posters promising confidence and beauty. Nothing had changed for them, but everything had changed for me. The woman who had removed my mole greeted me with the same smile as before, but this time I saw it differently. It wasn't reassuring, it was hollow, a mask she wore while cashing in on women's insecurities. When I confronted her with the diagnosis, she didn't look shocked. She didn't cry or apologize. She leaned back, folded her arms and said, "You never told us you had cancer. You knew." Those words cut deeper than the scalpel ever had. The implication was staggering, that I was somehow responsible, that I had walked in knowing I was sick and still let them perform the procedure. That my silence had condemned me. The audacity of that lie left me trembling. I wanted to scream, to demand proof, to ask how I could possibly have known something even the professionals hadn't recognized. But instead, I stood frozen, my voice buried beneath a tidal wave of rage and disbelief. Later, when I replayed that conversation in my head, I realized their tactic. If they admitted guilt, they risked lawsuits, investigations, the collapse of their business. But if they pushed the blame onto me, they could keep operating, keep profiting, keep luring in the next unsuspecting woman. I wasn't a patient to them. I was a liability, an inconvenience, a potential scandal they needed to silence. I thought about suing, about going to the authorities, about dragging their name through the mud in every newspaper and online review site I could find. But then reality hit me. Legal battles take time, money, and energy. And I had none of those left. My energy was being siphoned into survival. My money was being drained by medical bills. My time was being measured not in years but in months. The treatments began quickly. Aggressive rounds of immunotherapy, endless scans, and the constant prick of needles. Hospitals became my second home, their fluorescent lights carving deep shadows under my eyes. The nurses were kind, the doctors competent, but none of it erased the truth. I was dying. And I couldn't shake the thought that I might have had a chance, if only someone at that clinic had cared enough to stop me, to look closer, to say, "This isn't cosmetic, this is life or death." At night, when the pain kept me awake, I would lie in bed scrolling through forums and support groups. I found story after story of women who had been dismissed by so-called specialists, told their concerns were nothing, only to discover later that it was cancer, or an infection, or a condition that had spiraled out of control. The pattern was chilling. We lived in a country where beauty is an industry worth billions, but safety is treated as optional fine print. I began to feel like I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was part of something larger, a hidden epidemic of negligence wrapped in glitter and perfume. Cosmetic clinics, nail salons, spas, they were all part of the same machine, one that profits off vulnerability, one that convinces women that their worth is tied to appearances, one that operates in the shadows of regulation, because it's easier to sell dreams than to meet medical standards. The anger inside me grew, fueling me when my body felt weak. I imagined standing on a stage, holding a microphone, telling every woman in America, don't trust them. Don't hand over your body for convenience. Don't believe the lies painted on glossy posters. They don't care about you, they care about your money. But then, just as quickly, the anger would collapse into despair. Because even if I screamed the truth from every rooftop, would it matter? Or would women still file into those clinics chasing beauty just like I had, believing they were untouchable until it was too late? My family tried to be supportive, but I could see the fear in their eyes. My mother cried when she thought I wasn't looking. My father grew silent, retreating into the garage to fix things that didn't need fixing. My friends, once vibrant presences in my life, began to fade. They didn't know what to say, how to sit with my pain, how to face their own reflection of mortality. And so, they disappeared. Loneliness became another disease I carried. I kept thinking about the moment I signed the consent form at the clinic, scrawling my name without a second thought. It was a contract I hadn't understood, one that had stripped me of protection. Those few seconds with a pen had become the prelude to catastrophe. And yet, I couldn't stop blaming myself. Because no matter how much I wanted to condemn them, no matter how obvious, their negligence, the voice in my head whispered, "You chose this, you walked in. You wanted it." That's the cruelest trick of all, the way shame settles into your bones, making you complicit in your own victimhood. As the months went on, I grew weaker. My once ordinary life, commutes, dinners, laundry errands, vanished into a blur of hospital rooms and prescription bottles. Every time I passed a mirror, I barely recognized myself. My hair thinned, my skin sagged, my body betrayed me. And yet, the world outside kept spinning, Instagram influencers kept posting about glow-up treatments and self-care sessions, cosmetic clinics kept advertising mole removals and skin-perfecting lasers. The cycle of lies continued unstoppable, while I faded into the background like a cautionary tale no one wanted to hear, but I refused to vanish quietly. I started documenting everything. My medical records, my receipts from the clinic, screenshots of their advertisements. I wrote journal entries late at night, recording the pain, the fear, the betrayal. If I couldn't sue them, I could at least leave a record. Proof that negligence had a name, a face, a consequence. Proof that my story was real. And the more I wrote, the more my rage sharpened into clarity. This wasn't just about me. This was about every woman who had ever trusted the wrong hands, every woman who had been convinced to trade safety for beauty, every woman who had been silenced by shame. I was one person, yes, but my story could be the crack in the facade, the fissure that revealed the rot underneath. And so, I made a decision. If my time was limited, I wouldn't spend it in silence. I would spend it speaking to anyone who would listen, speaking even when my voice trembled, speaking until the last breath forced its way out of my lungs. Because silence is what they want. And silence is what kills. My nightmare had begun with vanity, but it had transformed into something larger, something darker. It had become a war against an industry that thrives on exploitation, a war against my own shame, a war against the clock ticking louder every day inside my chest. I didn't know how long I had left, but I knew this: I wasn't done fighting, not yet. I sometimes wonder what people will remember about me when I am gone. Not the way I laughed too loud at my own jokes, not the way I could never cook rice without burning it, not the way I always sang off-key in the car. No, I fear I will be remembered as the woman who trusted the wrong hands. The woman who thought beauty was harmless and who paid with her life. But maybe, just maybe, that's not the worst thing, because if my story can stop even one woman from walking into the same trap, if my suffering can light up the warning signs others keep ignoring, then maybe there's meaning in it. Maybe there's a purpose buried in the wreckage of my body. The truth is, I am running out of time. I can feel it in my bones, in the way each day drains me more than the last, in the way my breath catches like broken glass in my lungs. The doctors don't say it out loud anymore, but I see it in their eyes. They are preparing me for the end, gently, cautiously, the way people speak to a child when they don't want to frighten them. But I am not afraid of dying anymore. What I fear is silence, because silence is what allows the next victim to fall. Silence is what lets the glossy posters keep lying, what lets the clinics keep profiting, what lets negligence keep hiding behind soft smiles and lavender candles. If I stop speaking, they win, and I cannot let them win. I replay the timeline over and over again. A single mole, a single appointment, 15 minutes in a chair. That's all it took. 15 minutes that ended my future, 15 minutes that ripped apart my family's peace, 15 minutes that turned me into a statistic. That's what enrages me the most. How small the decision seemed, how insignificant, how ordinary. And yet, that tiny moment opened the door to a lifetime of suffering. I think about the young women scrolling Instagram late at night, pausing on ads for quick mole removal or laser beauty treatments. I think about the single mothers who just want to feel attractive again, the teenagers bullied for their skin, 40s staring at wrinkles in the mirror and wondering if it's too late to fix them. They don't know what waits for them behind those doors. They don't know that some of those smiling specialists don't have the training to recognize danger, that some of them care more about cash than caution, that some of them would rather risk your life than risk losing a sale. And so I speak, even when my voice shakes. I tell them that beauty is not worth dying for. I tell them that no cosmetic procedure is worth gambling your future. I tell them that if you ever see a mole, a mark, a blemish that worries you, don't walk into a salon, walk into a hospital, see a dermatologist, demand a biopsy. Ask questions until they roll their eyes, because the alternative is what happened to me. And trust me, you don't want this story to become yours. Sometimes people ask me if I regret it all, if I regret wanting to feel beautiful, if I regret stepping into that clinic, if I regret signing the form. Of course I do. But regret doesn't rewind the clock. Regret doesn't stop the spread of cancer. Regret doesn't save you. What might save you, though, is anger. Anger that fuels change. Anger that refuses to accept the status quo. Anger that demands laws, regulations, accountability. Anger that forces the government to say, enough. No more unlicensed hands cutting into flesh. No more shady salons masquerading as medical experts. No more women dying because someone didn't bother to care. If you're listening to me now, if my story has crawled into your chest and made you uneasy, good. Sit with that discomfort, let it burn, and then use it. Use it when you choose where to go for treatment. Use it when you vote for leaders who set health regulations. Use it when your daughter, your sister, your friend says she wants a mole removed at a spa. Be the voice that stops her. Be the shield I never had. My days are numbered, but my words don't have to die with me. That is the strange comfort I have found in this nightmare. My body may fail, but my voice can live on in you. Every time you repeat my story, every time you warn another woman, every time you hesitate before trusting the wrong hands, you keep me alive. Not in a hospital bed, but in action. In resistance. In protection. There are nights when I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, and wonder if this could have all been avoided. If I had seen a real doctor first. I am telling you, then I win. Because the real tragedy is not my death. The real tragedy would be if nothing changes after it. Do not let my story fade into silence. Do not let another woman sit in a clinic chair, blind to the danger, unaware that her life is about to unravel. Do not let negligence hide behind beauty. If you remember nothing else from me, remember this: beauty can wait, life cannot.